There's not much to talk about. We're gonna jump straight into NL5 goddamn Zoom. I played 40,000 hands at this limit at over 10 big blinds per 100. I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm doing here, and I'm gonna reveal as we go through today. I'm gonna reveal my strategy. I'm gonna actually show you the specifics of how to actually beat the limit, so you can actually go for it. You can ask me questions, guys, and you can figure out for yourself what how we're gonna beat it. King Queen, I go ahead and bet small. I actually don't mind him calling me lighter, and I'm doing that because I actually don't mind if he calls me lighter on the flop, because if it comes 10, any card higher than a 10, I'm gonna take it down. And same on the river. If he checks, I'm betting big, and I'm gonna take it down a lot of the time. I don't think that people are gonna do much, so we're gonna bet big, and he should fold. I would expect like what, 50% of the time he's gonna fold, which is more than we need, obviously. So very profitable bluff, and there you go. So yeah, this is the key to NL5. One of the keys. Make it very simple. What's up, Zito? What's up? Zetozinho, welcome to the chat, my friend. So let's take a look at the King Queen, guys. Right, so to reiterate, I think people play very, very straightforward at NL5, especially regulars, right? A lot more than at higher limits. And when you do this, when you see bet small like this, vast majority of the time, if they have nines, if they have deuces, if they have threes, they are actually going to raise you. They are actually going to raise you when you use these small sizes. So a lot of my strategy is actually trying to get information from people that play really, really straightforward and use it against them. So when someone check calls like this, I assume him to be reasonably weak. I assume him to have fours, to have sixes, maybe something like 7-8, I suppose, makes sense. And now when the river falls, if you are playing higher stakes, if I would be playing at my stakes and I'm in his shoes, I'm in Pericles' shoes, I would be checking 100% of the time with my ace. If I check call an ace on the flop that I called in the small blind and I didn't free bet, it wouldn't be ace king. It would not be ace queen. So all the aces I have here are ace 10 suited, possibly if I'm calling with a weaker big blind, possibly something like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Ace 10 suited, ace 9 suited some of the time, right? So against a strong player, if I check call an ace on the flop, I'm going to be checking the river every single time. And this is what you should definitely do against me. And this is why, because me as the pre-flop raiser, when I open raise and c-bet the flop and check the turn, I can have every single ace in the deck, basically. I can definitely c-bet them on the flop. But I can also do this. I can also go ahead and bluff at the ace, right? The thing about this limit, though, is that people don't realize this. People don't realize that if they have a top pair, top kicker, if they have ace 10, for example, they are supposed to check it 100% of the time. That just doesn't happen. That means bluffs like these, when people play really straightforward, bluffs like these are going to work a lot more often than they would at other stakes. Because first of all, this guy is going to check raise me with a set more than he should. You should be check calling a set against a strong player on the flop a good amount of the time. I don't see that happening at NL5. And a lot of people make the mistake of actually betting their aces. So basically all that remains in his range is pretty much a weak pair. And against that weak pair, we're going to go ahead and bluff this and take it down on the river. Vafelet, what's up, my man? Welcome to the chat. Awesome to have you here. Sea Salt McFish, do you think you can play the same at Zoom NL2? Yes, I do think so. You absolutely can play the same at NL2 Zoom. The thing is, at NL2 Zoom, you don't even have to border. Like at NL2 Zoom, people pay you off even more than they do at NL5. And you know what? I'm gonna do this. Right, so first thing, people don't protect their ranges. And again, I'm going to do the same thing, guys. Absolutely the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and bet small with my backdoors, and I'm going to barrel if I actually hit something on the turn. And I opened raise because he wasn't it in the blind. So the second thing that you really want to do at NL5 is attack the blinds against the nits. And this is when you build up a sample. When you build up a sample and you have someone who just doesn't defend in the big blind, you're just going to go ahead and steal the blinds. Katakuga that is red line strat. So my Fluxy Baby is bringing up an important point. And Ace Jack, I would like to have my backdoors. I'm going to go ahead and check it down, unfortunately. Right, so my Fluxy Baby says, thank you very much for bluffing at micros, which of course works. Yes, yes. Guys, I want to make one thing perfectly clear, right? Bluffing at NL5 is a great idea. It's an absolutely wonderful idea. But with the caveat of you should take your spots, you should pick your spots, and there are a bunch of them that are really, really obvious, where bluffing is just so profitable that you don't even care if people call you. If this guy calls me with random sixes, here with the hand, we have King Queen offsuit, it doesn't goddamn matter. You still are gonna keep bluffing even at NL5. Because people don't protect their ranges. They don't have strong hands in their ranges. They would bet the ace most of the time. I assume on a river like this, they probably block bet it or bet it themselves. So in a situation like this one, you absolutely can bluff. So the times I'm gonna bluff at micro stakes is bluff against obvious weakness. I would actually argue, guys, in a lot of situations, you can actually bluff more at NL5. You can bluff a lot more at NL5 than you can at any higher limit, even at NL10, right? You can actually bluff more in many situations. You can bluff more at NL5 than higher. And I think this is exactly the situations I'm talking about. This King Queen one. Because if you are playing higher stakes, every single good regular where I play, if I'm playing my NL200, nobody will bet an ace on the river. Every single one of them will simply go ahead and check call it because they assume I can go ahead and bluff at it. And they know if they have ace 10, there's not that much I can actually call. People are not doing that at NL5 though. It's a very safe bluff at this limit because people are simply not protecting their ranges enough. So situations like these, you can bluff a lot more because people are not wary of their own ranges and they just have really, really weak hands and they let you bluff against them cheaply like we've done with the King Queen right here. Docs Club says, hey, cannot stay for long when to show up at least. Good stuff already. Thank you very much, sir. Right, there we go. Flip a flush. This is what you want, right? This is what you want when you're playing NL5. Let's see who this player is. I think he's a one-tabler. I'm gonna go half pot. We have the nuts, and now I'm gonna slow play. I mean, obviously, if a diamond rolls off, it sucks. But I really want him to keep betting. I don't want him to go ahead and fold an ace against me. So I'm gonna go ahead and call and pray no fucking diamond rolls off on the turn. Katsaguga, they only slow play the nuts. I don't think people slow play the nuts that much. And now, you know what? Now is the time to get some value. I want to get it in. I think that a lot of hands that he has here are actually going to be calling. So, you know what? Let's bump it up enough so that he's incentivized to call with an ace. And we can go ahead and jam it on the river and get the stack in. So, yeah, there you go. He bets, we jam, and we win. There you go. Ace 5. And nothing has changed, guys. Nothing has changed, okay? This is absolutely the thing that you're going to keep doing. This is what NL5 was all about from the beginning of the time. Since the beginning of the time, NL5 was exactly this, where you simply play your hands well and you run into someone completely crazy who's going to pay you off with ace 5. One thing that I like to do though, I like to take this line. I like to take the line of just calling the flop min raise. And the reason is, if he's got the ace 5 and we go over the top here, I feel like even recreational players can actually let go of it. Even recreational players can let go of it if you re-raise on the flop and jam. That's why, especially with this hand, when really only thing we mind is a diamond, we go ahead and just call the turn, raise, and he's basically committed. It's really hard for him to go ahead and fold this. We get this stack. So that's probably the only difference that I would make from most people, is that I'm just gonna flat against the flop min raise and then try to get it in on later streets pretty much. Right, I'm missing some of the questions, guys. Obviously, this is Zoom. This is fast and furious. I'm actually pretty used to it. Another thing I was doing. Now, the drawback of this is you actually lose time bank. We are losing the time bank in this, but I'm not gonna stay at the table if I go ahead and I'm deep, right? Okay, let's call the fours. Next one, this is obvious. Just set mine like a boss. I'm gonna be calling my pocket pairs a lot. People simply pay you off too much. They let you get to showdown too much as well, right? If you are calling pocket pairs pre-flop, there's basically two things I want to do. First of all, I want to flop a set. Second of all, I want to call one bet and get to showdown, more or less, right? This is what I'm trying to do with a pocket pair. And because people are so goddamn, look at that, it's gonna get almost got goddamn check through. It's going to be really, really simple to show it down. This is why pocket pairs are so much better than NL5. People pay you off when they hit something. At the same time, they're not going to bluff enough. So they're simply allow you to get to showdown easily. And all that makes pocket pairs really profitable, basically. Right, I'm going to get to the bankroll management in a second. And this is what I'm doing, guys. When you're playing 4 tables, and I did this, I was 4 tabling for roughly 42 hours. So about 1,000 hands per hour. That's what I was doing. I don't want complexity in my game. I don't want complexity in my game when I'm playing NL5 Zoom, right? Especially when I'm 4 tabling. So what I'm gonna do when I actually double up, or if I have 170 big blinds, which is what I had there, I'm gonna reopen a new table. I'm losing time bank right now, so it does have its drawback. This is why PokerStars allows you to do it, because you are losing the time bank that you built up. But you keep your strategy the same, you keep it simple, and you can basically autopilot over 4 table Zoom. At regular tables, I don't do this, because usually there's a recreational player or regulars I have reads on. But in Zoom, I absolutely reload if I get over roughly 120 big blinds, because I want to keep my strategy the same. Right, so there you go. How many stacks do you recommend for NL5? And the answer for me is about 8 buy-ins. No, it's about 10 buy-ins for my win rate and my standard deviation, right? So in theory, all I need is 10 buy-ins. To be safe, probably 15. So I would play NL5. If I have 50 bucks or 75 bucks, I wouldn't move down. But the two things that decides, and you can check this in your poker tracker, by the way, your poker tracker, your hold'em manager, you can check it, is your standard deviation. Standard deviation variance is a square root of that. It basically tells you how big your swings are, okay? It basically tells you how big your swings are. And it tells you how often you're going to deviate from your win rate. So that's the first thing. You can actually check it in poker tracker, hold'em manager, standard deviation. Second thing is win rate, okay? Win rate is the second thing. It has a big impact on how many stacks you actually need. Yeah, so this is the side, guys. This is the side. You have to decide for yourself. I want you to go there, and I want you to input your win rate and your standard deviation. Win rate, you have to estimate how much you have it. If I have 10 buy-ins, I can actually do it right now. So if I have 10 big blinds per 100 win rate, right? 10 big blinds per 100 win rate, and my standard deviation was roughly 66, something like that. 66 standard deviation. With the strategy that I'm using, it's very, very low, right? And I put 10,000 hands here, calculate. For 5% risk of ruin, I just need 7 buy-ins, okay? With 6.5 buy-ins, with 6.5 buy-ins, I have a 5% risk of losing the entire bankroll. Now, obviously, we need more than that, because the 5% means that you can go all the way to 1 buy-in and then bounce back from that, okay? So I probably want something like 10 or 12 buy-ins when I'm playing NL5. If your win rate is smaller than this, if your win rate is, say, 4 big blinds, you gotta see the difference. Suddenly, you need 16 buy-ins, right? I'm gonna check the Queen Jack here. And if your standard deviation is higher, let's say it's 74, suddenly it radically increases. It radically increases. You need 20 stacks. And to be safe, you're going to need probably 30 buy-ins when you're playing NL5. Oh my God, look at that. Oh my God, this is so annoying. Oh God, guys, what the hell is going on? I can't fold here. I checked. I mean, we're beat by quads, right? There's just no folding this. There is no folding this. We have to call. If he's got quads, so be it. Don't have quads though, dude. Don't have tens. Some of the time it's gonna be a... Yeah, okay, so he does have the jacks. There's no reason to jam. Don't do this, all right? Never do this, guys, even at NL5. Just don't jam the goddamn jack on the river. You just kill yourself to rate. No one's gonna call anything worse. So yeah, this is absolutely brutal. and my boy decided to go all in with 7 jack suited. Yeah, my Fluxy says the goal is to be play well and safe, not just to do the minimum to avoid going broke. Yeah, obviously, as I said, you need some sort of safe. No quotes in Hold'em. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It makes absolutely no sense for this guy to jam a jack, right? Why the hell would you jam a jack in this situation? Makes absolutely no sense. No one's gonna call you with worse, so I can't fold obviously because it is an L5. But annoying situation, let me tell you. Now, 8-6, I'm going to be playing really tight, but against these min raises, I find that people usually tend to play just straightforward post-flop when they min raise pre-flop. So I'm going to call and basically try to take it down. Right, so Cecil McFish, for NL5, I would probably be okay with like 15 stacks. To be honest, if I'm probably gonna play for fun. I'm gonna probably play for fun at these limits. I'm gonna leave like 50 bucks on stars or 70 bucks on stars. I'm gonna be playing NL5 just for fun. When I will be playing video games instead, probably. If you're playing seriously, yeah, 20 stacks is probably better. If your win rate is not 10 big blinds per 100, if it's at 4 big blinds per 100, you're gonna need close to 20 or 30 or even 40 stacks. And if you're a break-even player, you probably need like 50 buy-ins. If you are a break-even player, so you don't have a too high of a risk of going broke, you probably need like 50 buy-ins to play even NL5. It really all depends on what your win rate is and what your standard deviation is. You can go ahead and play there. Zetozinho says, I'd like to see our coach taking very aggressive shots at higher limits. I'm going to see bet the 9s here. The 9s, if you play with solvers, they would always check. I find that people are not aggressive enough at NL5 though. If you bet this board, solver is supposed to raise a lot. And oh, look at that! We actually do get raised. I'm gonna call. I have some backdoors. I'm not folding this just yet. But I'm gonna go ahead and fold against aggression, obviously. But let's see what develops. Now we can fold. There you go. But yeah, I do see bet these pocket pairs when we have an overpair to the board. I don't see people raising enough with weak hands. When they do this. They raise small, and then they basically give up. So yeah, I've been c-betting out of position a lot more than a solver strategy would, basically. Yeah, I'm playing on something, guys. This is the thing. It's a lesson for me, I guess lesson for you as well. Don't play on untracked sites. Always make sure that the site is tracked by Poker Strategy, because you can read it on 2+2. It's basically an Asian site, Poker King, that I used to play on. But all my accounts have been frozen for like 3 weeks now. So that's why I've been playing micro stakes. That's why I'm picking up a sample. That's why I'm able to actually bring you episodes like this one. And you know what? I actually moved up to roughly $300 from $20. NL10 is killing me though. I'm running so bad under EV at NL10. Hopefully I will crack it soon. But hopefully we're gonna go ahead and crash that. And sooner or later, I'm gonna beat the goddamn NL10. I'm running like 10 buy-ins below EV right now there. Cecil McFish says, not playing normally on NL5, but with $191 bankroll, playing NL2 seems useless. It depends. Yeah, it depends on your win rate. I mean, if you are break-even at NL5, you're actually risking that you might lose your bankroll eventually, right? Because the 40 buy-ins, if you break even, you actually are risking that you might lose your bankroll. So if you are struggling with beating the higher limit, what I actually recommend you to do, guys, is to mix the limits together, okay? Just because you are an NL5 player, just because you are an NL10 player, doesn't mean you can't play a lower limit, all right? It doesn't mean you can't go for one day, even for one day, and play NL5, play NL2, play the lower limit, basically. Especially if you're struggling, especially if you are in a downswing. Think about it. If you're going to play for half an hour at a lower limit, what's it going to do? Like, you should leave your ego aside. So goddamn what? You will play a lower limit. It's easier for you. You know how to beat it already. And you're going to get your confidence up. You're going to move up after a couple hours or a couple days or even a week maybe, right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a spot. And I see people making a big mistake in this one. I'm going to go ahead and bet 25%. And I think betting anything else is a big mistake. Betting anything else than 25% in this situation is a pretty big mistake. At NL5 especially. At other limits as well, but NL5 especially. The reason is exactly this. If I go ahead and bet 25%, he's going to do some crazy stuff against me, but I can still get the money in. Basically, my goal is to induce him to do some crazy stuff, induce him to check raise me with random sevens, random flush draw, stuff like that. And when he doesn't, I can still do this. I can still go ahead and bet the flop, bet the turn, and jam the river. Second thing that I do, I like to misrepresent my hand. I like to give people reason to bluff catch me. And basically the reason I'm giving him is I'm thinking for a long time. Right here, like I would with flush draws, okay? I'm trying to make my hand look as a bluff as much as possible. If I had a flush draw and I would be on the river, I would be strongly considering bluffing or not. I wouldn't instantly jam. If I have ace king, I see this, people make this mistake a lot. If they have ace king here, they bet the flop, bet the turn, and they instantly go all in on the river, and it's pretty obvious they're not bluffing, especially in a situation like this one. But what we want to do is think for a long time, like people wouldn't expect us to do with trips, and then we're gonna go out and jam. And you can see, I think he's got the random pair, he's got random tens and something like that, and he's thinking for goddamn 20 seconds at NL5, eventually folds. But the amount of calls I got by doing this, by going 25% on the flop, and then betting the turn, then tanking for a long time on the river, the amount of spews and the amount of calls I got from random, even eights in this situation, was absolutely insane. I think, I would say like 3 big blinds per 100 is just by me doing this and people spewing with random stuff, people check raising me with random stuff. So yeah, just because it's NL5, guys, it's important that you don't just blindly close your eyes like, I have trips, this NL5, they don't fold anything, I bet 2/3 on the flop. No, you don't want to do that, all right? You don't want to just blindly go ahead and do that. If you want to crush the limit for 10 big blinds per 100, god damn it, we have to resize the tables. You want to be a little bit smarter about that. And as you can see here, I'm pretty sure he had a random pair. There's no way he had an ace, obviously. Ace is never folding against us. I'm pretty sure he had random 10s. He had random 9x. In this situation, and even NL5, he tanked the entire time, right? So by going 25% on the flop, you still get the stacks in. It looks like you're a little bit more bluffy, and make sure you tank long on the river, because it basically seems like you have a lot more bluffs. Daniel 6134, no, 1/3 is fine. 1/3 or 25%, both of those are good in this situation. King free. Okay, I think I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna do something that I don't do much. I'm gonna explain why. I did this, but let me show you this hand. Daniel 6136. What about when you decide to bluff? Will you play the same lane even when they spew against these small bets? Yes, I will. Yes. Actually, you know what? That's a good question, Daniel. In a lot of situations at NL5, I've actually been doing this absolutely ridiculous thing, which is obviously it's not good poker, but I have actually been doing this. This is a really, really good question, Daniel. And yes, in short, yeah, I have been using this at NL5 quite a bit. If I'm bluffing, I'm going to bet bigger in a lot of situations. Don't take it as a blanket statement, right? I would, you can take it one on that board specifically, but in a lot of situations, on the flop specifically, I would actually bluff with a bigger sizing than I am with actual value bets. And that's especially the case when I have bluffs that can't really barrel the turn much. If I have a bluff that can't barrel the turn much, I'm going to go ahead and bet bigger on the flop than I otherwise would. That's not the case with the ace-king, right? So I have ace-king right here, but the thing with the ace-king, I can barrel a 10, I can barrel a jack, and I can barrel any diamond. So I don't actually mind if this guy calls me reasonably wide on the flop. So I don't have to go too wide. The thing I've been doing at NL5 though, especially in Zoom, regular tables you can't really get away with this, but if I have a hand that doesn't have any equity here, if I have something like 7-8 of spades, 7-8 of spades on here, I would simply bet half pot. I wouldn't bet 40%. I would bet half pot. I would bet 56%. So yeah, I actually have been doing that, Daniel 6134. Be very careful, guys. Be very, very careful about this. Don't do